Moving on, Charles Staley asks, Bill, how would you define authentic masculinity? Oh my God, what the hell do I know about that? I think the first thing I would probably say about it is, having just come off a pretty fairly traumatic experience, I think I probably would start that answer, Charles, by saying I think authentic. I think the first step of actually being a man, the first most important step is accepting responsibility for your own actions. You know, you have to accept responsibility for your own actions, and you have to take the. You have to. I think the definition of manhood and masculinity, one of them would be a commitment to doing the right thing rather than doing the smart thing, or certainly the easy thing. I know, having come off of a situation where I felt like I just really let people down, basically through my own lack of oversight, through my own assumptions, that the first thing you have to do in a case of that, if you want to make that right, and probably the first step in authentic masculinity is the desire to want to make things right, the desire to want to make things right, to live up to your word, to be honorable, to be decent, to be reliable, to be worthy of people's trust is, I think, an aspect of masculinity. And so when you find you failed in that situation, I think responsibility is really important. You really just have to step up and say, I made a big mistake here. I let you down. It's not easy to say that. And many people will avoid it. Many people just don't have the guts or the courage or the strength to say, look, I completely screwed this up. I'm terribly sorry. Here's what I'm doing about it. And I hope this will make it right. And if it hasn't made it right, you tell me what else I need to do to make it right. If I can make it up to you, I will. That is a profoundly important quality, the ability to accept responsibility for your own actions. And I think that's one of the many things we see being bleached out of society today. Is this idea that this kind of group responsibility. Certainly you see this from progressives. A guy commits a murder. It's not his fault. He was abused as a child, and the kind of cynical, cold thing to say is, the guy didn't have a puppy when he was a kid, therefore, he couldn't help himself when he killed that family. Both cases are true. You look at the background of a guy like, Dahmer or Ted Bundy, or any of these guys. Some of these people suffered. Some of these people suffered just unbelievable abuse. And it's true that that's not their fault. But it's also true that a lot of people suffer abuse and they don't go out and murder people. And it's also true on some level that when you are committing some heinous act and somebody's begging for mercy, you make a decision to continue on doing that. And I don't know anybody, none of my friends are able to inflict that kind of pain on people. None of the people I know are able to inflict cruel pain or more pain than is needed than when they're dealing with their enemies. And it's kind of the essence of honorable warfare, right? Somebody surrenders. Okay, we got them down. They're down? Yep, okay, that's it. We don't have to keep kicking them now that they're down. So all of these qualities, I think, are important in our idea of masculinity. And when you really come down to it, I think the single word I would probably tie most into masculinity, as I understand it, manhood anyway, is honor. And honor is more than just outrage, and it's more than just the appearance of doing well. You can often find, and I think Twain made this point too, I've always been fascinated by this idea of moral courage versus physical courage. I know I've told this story before, but I think Twain talked about during the Spanish-American War, we had our fleet in Manila Bay, and I think the Spanish had sunk a wreck or something along these lines that was blocking a passage, and they asked for volunteers among the entire Navy and among the entire U.S. fleet in Manila Bay. So we need 10 volunteers to go out on this mission, and it's probably a suicide mission, probably not coming back. And apparently every single person in the fleet volunteered. Something like that. This story just rings a bell. And Twain said, That's remarkable, and that is courage. There's no question that's courage. It's physical courage. You're going to go out there and you're going to risk your life, and you may die. In fact, you're likely to die. But Twain's point was, is it moral courage? Because even though you're likely to die, if you do die, you will die a hero. You will die a hero. You'll be venerated. All of your friends will clap you on your back if you survive, and they'll drink a toast to you if you don't. And there'll be a statue for you, and there'll be a school named after you. And Twain said, if it was equally, I think it was Twain, if it was equally important to the success of the mission and the success of the war for somebody to go out there and do something reprehensible. In other words, what if 10 people had to go volunteer and be seen as traitors? Let's just imagine a situation where there was a certain amount of subterfuge that was necessary in order to get the fleet into the bay or something, and what was needed were 10 American traitors. Even though they weren't actual traitors, they had to be seen as traitors and executed as traitors or whatever. How many people would have volunteered if it turned out that rather than being seen as heroes, they would be seen as villains? Even though the cause and the outcome is the same. In other words, you want to win the war. Well, Twain's point was physical courage is common especially among service people, but moral courage is much, 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 much rarer than that. And that's a really interesting question. He also talked about lynchings, and he was talking about lynchings in Missouri, and you could just see it just rip the heart out of him because lynching had spread to Missouri. And he was talking about mobs. And he said in any given mob, if there's 100 people in a mob, there's probably only 1 or 2 of the people in the mob actually genuinely want to string that person up. And everybody else is doing this social proof thing where no one wants to be seen as being a friend of the victim. No one wants to be seen as not wanting justice for the poor Southern flower, or any of this stuff. And so he said that the mob has a group mentality and a group will that is very, very weak. And he would talk in this essay, I think called The United States of Lyncherdom. Twain basically said, he mentioned a couple guys by names. I should have the names memorized, and I'm a little ashamed that I don't. But he mentioned a couple cases where a single marshal, a single man, would stand in front of a lynch mob, one man in front of 100 or 1,000. And they've got some poor black man or whoever, somebody who they've decided is guilty, and they're going to run him up to a tree and string him up. And Twain said time and time and time again, you would find a case where one man, often unarmed, will stand in front of a lynch mob and say something to the effect of, I can't stop you, all of you, from stringing that man up to a tree, but I can tell you this, you're going to have to kill me in order to do it. And often, if their arms will say, and several of you are going with me. Twain's point was that kind of moral courage turns oceans, turns mountains. He said, if we had 10,000 of that breed, we wouldn't have another problem in the world today. And I think that's absolutely right. So I think the essence of that masculinity thing, Charles, is the moral courage to do the right thing, not the smart thing, not the easy thing, the right thing, even if it costs you, even if it is extremely disadvantageous to you, that there is a higher benefit to be gained, not even for you personally, because obviously you can make a case where the exercise of honor costs you your life. But I think probably even when you talk about people who give their lives for honor and, this Nathan Hale kind of thing, I think ultimately what they're saying is it's worth my life for me to have lived and for other people to live in a society that is based on honor, because that society is so much better place to live that it's worth dying for. And this is all very high-level philosophical, theoretical stuff. What it really comes down to is, ultimately, you will often see real men, genuine men, masculine men, as I understand men, who will leap into a burning building, or they will step in front of a train, or they'll jump off a pier to rescue not their children, but somebody else's children. So that's it, right? That's it. You do the right thing when you have to. And you don't get to write an excuse for yourself. And, everybody fails, everybody makes mistakes, and everybody there are moments when people fail tests of courage, and if they fail a test of courage or competence or something, it stays with them. It bothers them, and they can't sleep until they get it right. So Andrea Kent just points out that's not masculinity. That's women have moral courage as well. That's absolutely true. That's 100% true. That's absolutely true. But you do often see, let me put it to you this way. What I think the essence of masculinity is using that same sense of moral courage. You're absolutely right. I think it was Andrea. Yes, you're absolutely right. Women have that sense of moral courage too. Men have greater physical strength and they have greater speed, significantly greater strength. And so when I see a male applying his greater strength to protect people who may have the same heart, may have the same moral courage, but who are physically weaker than themselves, that's the essence of it for me, I guess. It would be the essence of you're strong and you're big and you're tougher. And things still hurt, Burning buildings hurt you just as much as they hurt a small woman or a small child or anybody else. But when you see people using their strength, their physical strength and their whatever emotional strength they can bring to bear, when they use their own physical strength and emotional strength and interpose that between other people and harm, maybe that's what I'm aiming for. Anyway, I've talked about this before. I don't want to spend too much more time on it. We got such great questions today, and we always seem to have such limited time.